Welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. I have the incredible privilege to be sharing these thoughts with you from Yerushalayim, Yira Kodesh. Here it's already the first night of Chanukah. Baruch Hashem Abba Aleinu L'Tova. And we have the great schos this week to read Parshas Vayeshev. And of course, the parsha contains what is, I think, one of the most traumatic episodes in the entire Torah, the sale of Yosef. The brothers see Yosef coming and they're filled with anger, they're filled with rage towards him. And at first, they decide to kill him, then they decide not to kill him, but let's go ahead and sell him. And the Torah says as follows. This is in Perek, Lamed Zayin Pasuk of Dal, chapter 37, verse 24. Vayikachuhu vayashlichu oso abora. They took Yosef, they stripped him of his clothing, stripped him of his dignity, and they threw him into the pit. V'haba reik ein bo mayim. And the pit was empty, there was no water in the pit. And obviously, again, Rashi HaKadosh is bothered by this. Why does it have to say, if you say v'habarek, that the pit was empty, obviously there's no water in it. So Rashi explains, ultimately, again, mayim ein bo, aval nechoshim v'akrabim yesh bo. So in other words, the redundancy is not redundant. When it says v'habarek ein bo mayim, the pit was empty of water, but it wasn't empty of other things. What did it have in it? Snakes and scorpions. In other words, according to Rashi, Torah is trying to teach us that the brothers threw Yosef into a dangerous situation, into a pit that was filled with snakes and scorpions. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says something incredibly beautiful. The Rebbe says that there's a deeper message about this for our own ruchnius, for our own spirituality as well. And I want to quote you. The Rebbe says, Kilomar, Shen mitzius shal memutza bein tzad kedusha l'tzad hafri. The Rebbe says, what the Torah is trying to teach us is that there is no in-between when it comes to spirituality. Meaning, let's focus on the pit for just a moment. What Rashi is saying is, the pit is an either or. Either it's filled with water, but if it's not filled with water, it's going to be filled with something damaging, right? Water is life-sustaining. See, the pit has water, it has mayim, but if it doesn't have mayim, if there's no mayim, that means there's something damaging inside of it. And the Rebbe says what is true for the pit is true for the soul as well. There's a space inside of us. And the goal of us is the goal that we have is to fill that space with time, to fill that space with the beautiful waters of spirituality. But if I don't fill that space with waters of spirituality, by definition, something negative, something impure, something destructive is going to fill that space. The same way that in the well, there's no such thing as empty space. Either the well is going to be filled by water, but in the absence of water, the snakes and scorpions are moving in. So too with that space that exists inside of each of us. Either I fill it with water, I fill it with beautiful spirituality, holiness, and Torah, but in the absence of that, it's going to get filled with something negative. There's no such thing as the space just simply remaining empty. Either the space is filled with something positive, or the space, chas v'shalom, is filled with something destructive. And interestingly enough, the Rebbe says this again a little bit later on in the parsha. In the episode with Yehuda and Tamar, the Torah says as follows. This is in Perek Lamed Ches, chapter 38, verse 13, pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayugad leTamar lemar, hine chamich ola timnasa lagosono. So they told Tamar, your father-in-law. Remember again, this is after Tamar, two husbands died. Yehuda's not marrying off to his youngest son. So the pasuk says that Tamar is told that your father-in-law is going up to Timnah. And the Rebbe points out that by Shimshon, by the prophet Samson, it says, Vayered Shimshon Timnah. Shimon went down to Timnah. Yehuda went up to Timnah. Shimshon went down to Timnah. How is that? Because again, Rashi points out, Timnah b'shipua hahar yosheves. Timnah was situated on the slant of a mountain. So the Rebbe says, on the slant of a mountain, again, especially when the incline is steep, you're either going up or you're going down. Even if you try to stand still, by definition, gravity is just going to gradually pull you down. So two examples of the same dynamic, right? So Yehuda is going up Timnah, Shimshon is going down Timnah. But again, when you're on that slant, when you're on that incline, you're either going up or you're going down. You're not staying in place. If the well is not filled with water, that is filled with snakes and scorpions. If I am not filling up the space inside of me with positive dynamic energy, the negativity is going to set in. What an incredibly profound lesson. I'm either going up or I'm going down. There's either water or there's scorpions, but there's no in between. And I think for many of us, we reach a time in life where we go a little bit into like a holding pattern. I get to a place where I'm happy. I get to a spot in life where I feel content. And then, okay, I feel like I could coast here. But the reality is we know that there's no coasting in life. It's either snakes or scorpions. It's either going up the mountain or down the mountain. There's either positivity, there's either kedusha, or there's negativity and impurity. Such is the dynamic of life. And I think this message is an incredible one all the time, but especially again on this first night of Hanukkah. I saw just as I was getting ready for my Hadlaka in Yerushalayim, I saw a beautiful idea about the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. And the Rebbe says that if you look at the three components of Ner Hanukkah, right? There's a wick, a psila, there's an eish, a fire, and there's shemen, there's oil. And the Rebbe says so beautifully that the wick, that refers to the guf. That refers to the guf. And ultimately, again, the ner, the fire, that refers to the neshama. And the whole avoda of Hanukkah is to bring together your wick and to bring together your fire. So often in life, there's like this tension between the body and the soul. But the avoda of Hanukkah is to bring the wick and to bring the ner. And how do you do that? How do you do that? You do it through shemen. You do it through oil. Oil is the bridge between the wick and between the oil, between the flame. Oil is what allows those two, the wick and the flame, to come together. The medium is oil. So the Shem Tov HaKadosh explains that oil is seichel, oil is intellect, oil is knowledge, oil is learning, oil is Torah. But I think even on a most basic level, what is oil? How do you get oil? How do you get oil? You get oil through exertion. Right? You could have the most beautiful cluster of olives, but a beautiful pile of olives are not going to produce oil. What do you have? Do you have to take the olives? You have to crush them. There has to be an exertion. There has to be a pressure that is put upon them. There has to be an avoda that's done. Oil is only received. You can only extricate the oil if you crush, if you go ahead and you exert effort with the olives. And maybe that's the idea. How do you bring together the wick of the body with the flame of the soul? It's only through pushing ourselves just a little bit more. And perhaps this is the way that we make sure that the opening or the space inside of us is filled with water and not with scorpions. Is filled with ascent and not descent, by pushing ourselves a little bit. You know, difference. It's a very different trip to Eretz Yisrael. You know, Yerushalayim, the Kosel, is so much emptier. Walking through Mamila, which is normally hustling and bustling, again, especially Hanukkah time, it's subdued. It's subdued. We passed by this evening. First, sorry, I'm collecting my thoughts a little bit. You know, by the Kosel itself, we were there for the Hadlaka for the first night of Hanukkah, and they have right by the beautiful large menorah, they have 180, something like that. I don't remember the exact number of menorahs set up for each of the hostages, for each of the shvuyim. And as you're coming into the Rova, right before the road where they have some of the ruins, again, they also have menorahs set up for each of the hostages. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to see it. A menorah with a picture of one of our precious brothers and sisters, men, women, and children. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to see. Chanukah, which is such a time of simcha, Chanukah was such a time of celebration, but yet there's a heaviness. There is. It's subdued. It's not the same. It's not the same. There's a void that exists within our people, and there's a void that exists within each of us. But now on this Shabbos Chanukah Parshas Vayeshev, we have to figure out what we want to fill our void with. We could sit and do nothing, but we know that's not an option. Or what we could do is on this Yom Tov of Chanukah, where I want to bring the wick of my guf, of my body, and I want to combine it with the flame of my soul. And the way I'm going to do that is through the olive oil, through the shemen. But the only way to get the olive oil is through exertion. So I want to exert myself, push myself just a little bit more. This Yom Tov of Chanukah is a time to take something additional upon ourselves. some avoda, whatever it is, you fill in the blank. You want to work on your tefillah, you want to work on your Torah, you want to work on your chesed, you want to start saying Sefer Tehillim, you want to be a better with your shmiras einayim or shmiras hapeh, whatever you want to fill in, whatever you want to do. But to push yourself, just to push ourselves, not yourself, ourselves, just to do a little bit more. That's the oil. That's the oil. That's the oil that allows the wick and the fire to combine together. The guf and the neshama to create this synergistic partnership is through the exertion of the oil. And it's through the oil, through pushing ourselves a little bit more, that we ensure that the space inside of each of us is filled with mayim, is filled with a beautiful holy water and not snakes and scorpions. That our lives are filled with ascent instead of descent. It's the same answer. It's taking the shemen, it's taking the oil of exertion and creating something beautiful within ourselves. It's taking the oil of exertion and combining our wick with our flame to create a magnificent light. We should be Zocha Meretz Hashem, that as we light the Neros Chanukah and we recite the bracha, Sha'asa nisim la'avoseinu bayamim ahim bazman hazeh. This Chanukah is different. Manishtana Chanukah zu mikala Chanukas sha'avru. It's very simple. In past years, when we spoke about miracles, we spoke about miracles of the past. This year, as we celebrate the Yontiv of Chanukah, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the miracles of the past, but we also ask Him for a present miracle as well. Ribono Shel Olam, bring home all of our hostages. Bring home all of the shvuyim. Ribono Shel Olam, bring home all of our soldiers. Allow them to be successful in their mission, but allow them to come home complete and be karov to the family of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just as you performed miracles in the past, you delivered the wicked into the hands of the righteous. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the miracle we need this Chanukah as well. Ribono Shel Olam, let it be truly a Yom Tov of Sha'asa Nisim La'avosenu Bayamim Ahim. Thank you for the historical miracles, but thank you for the miracles that we are confident that you will perform Bazman Hazeh, in this time as well. May we be Zocha Meretz Hashem to combine our wick with our Eish. May we be Zocha Meretz Hashem to fill the open space within ourselves with water and with ascent. And may it be a year when we each find just a little bit more oil, the oil of dynamic activity, the oil of a beautiful accomplishment, and may that oil create luminescent light for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for all of Am Yisrael. Wishing everyone a freilich in Chanukah and a good Shabbos.